right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Mornings with Movers. Uh, y'all guys know me. Dwyght Mack, moving force, Max moving trainer, you name it. Then we got Ryan Marsh in the building, doing everything, super move, probably executive somewhere else.
I wish.
So I hope everybody's doing good. I feel like it's been forever, even though it's only been a week. But this one week, we always look forward to this one day of the week.
This
Uh,
is a long week.
it felt like it.
I don't know if it's because the gloomy skies and the rain all week, but just it's cold.
Yeah.
What, 48 degrees or something like that? Crazy. Like, it's supposed to be summertime.
So I guess what have you been focused on now that you're off the kind of like off the touring?
Well, off the touring, but planning for the second half of fall conferences. So I've got just about all of that done. But we're getting ready to make an announcement here in 5 days, um, which it's Crazy Tuesday when a lot of announcements happen, May 27th. So we've got some really cool things that we're coming up that we're going to be doing basically throughout June, July, and August. So yeah, just kind of working on that rollout and what that's going to look like here in 5 days. We make that announcement.
Okay, nice,
I'll
nice.
be I'll be back I'll be back in motion here. Very, very soon. A lot sooner than I normally would be, but super excited to go on this journey with the team. So
Yeah, no, that is awesome. I want to do a Dave's drive-in type of thing with the moving where you just go to different locations and you're air filming it with a drone and you're like, yeah, so today we're at Missions Moving and Storage and
it's
and and I thought about
it's
that.
funny. It's funny you say that. Wait till wait 5 more days, man. Your part of your dream might come true. We're
See?
gonna be doing some really cool stuff. So yeah, actually next Thursday if you can meet. Yeah, because I'll be yeah, next Thursday I'll be oh, 27, 20. Yeah. No, I'll be here next Thursday, so maybe we can chat about that a little bit on the next episode.
Okay, okay. So, for all those that are tuning in, big announcement, announcement. Almost about to get mixed up. Too many damn M's and all everything that I'm dealing with. So, Mornings with Movers, we're gonna be having our anniversary episode very, very soon. So, we're scheduling it out right now, but we're gonna be bringing back all of our past guests that was just dropping gems on one big live platform where, I think we're probably gonna do it for about 2 hours because there's just no way to get all that in 1 hour with all of those amazing people we had. So, again, just be on the lookout. We'll definitely be posting a schedule of when it's gonna be going out, when we're gonna be going live. And you know what? The best thing is, it's free.
You're
So
not charging for that episode, huh?
no, no. But you know what? For the knowledge and amazing people that we dealt with, for a service like that, we just want you guys to come and join. Um, but yeah, I'm super excited because it's been so long. We used to do it after every 25 episodes. So, and we still had a lot of guests within the 25 episodes. So I can only imagine, like, we haven't did it since I think the 50th episode, and we're going on almost 100th. So,
That's
whew,
crazy.
yeah, time is flying. So, we'll love to hear your comments and feedback, how y'all been enjoying your experience with the show. If you have any feedback in general that we can be answering any questions wherever you are in your moving endeavors, just let us know. Um, and I am sharing the link on Facebook to make sure that people, know that we're live. Um, but in the meantime, Ryan, what else has been going on?
That man, like I said, just really trying to prep and dial in this upcoming conference season. We take a different approach when we go to these conferences. It's, one of the things that we don't just, just sign up, show up and sit at a booth. We're very strategic as to how we crawl through the hallways of these conference, how we set up booths, what we do, the messaging that we're putting out there. So it is even though it is kind of, I don't say technically downtime, right, for the software folks, but this is when just like non-peak season, right? This is the time you train, you plan, you prepare, you get ready for that next next level of peak season. That's exactly what the team is doing here.
Need a last-minute fill-in or facing an unexpected injury among your moving staff? No worries, Moving Force has you covered. Our app instantly connects you with trusted, professional movers who are ready to step in and handle urgent jobs whenever you need them. With our reliable network of vetted experts, you'll never be left short-handed. What are you waiting for? Download the app now and sign up for free now. Your stress-free move is just a tap away.
A lot of really cool things that'll be coming out here over the next 5 days to 2 weeks. So just really, it's hard to stay quiet, man. I'm just so excited about what's going on the home front that I gotta be careful that I don't slip. So quit asking me questions about that stuff
I
because you
got
know me, I will slip. I'll,
reword it differently later.
you might catch me off guard too. We'll see, but. No, I just think that thing is, I after the crazy travel season there that we had, the 120 days of straight running and gunning, I did. I kind of that week coming back was a little bit of a slow kind of get back with the family, get back into routine, you know, start figuring out, hey, where's my bed? Where's my bathroom? Where's my clothes? Because living out of a hotel for so long, you almost forget what home's like. But no,
Hmm.
after that week, man, it's like we're all ready to get back after it and be in front of our movers again, man. It's some of the best times. Some of the best memorable pieces is being out with hundreds of movers and just having those crazy conversations, not even about moving, but family, friends, outings, pet peeves,
Yeah.
just shooting the breeze, man, is so much fun. Like,
Yeah, it's not, it's kind of like nothing like it. You're right. You're absolutely right about that. And I always bring it back to when I was in Florida and I went to the Chambers of Commerce. Now, again, obviously it's the whole concept of networking. So whether you're talking about moving specifically and sharing war stories and obviously those war stories become laughter for us because you've been through it at this point. You understand, we relate. But there's nothing like networking. When I was at the Chambers of Commerce and we just talking to random businesses that could potentially be partner and not like vendors to you or whatever the case is, that's not pack and supply vendors, because obviously you see a lot of those and they're like, oh yeah, we can deliver, but you get tired of talking to them. Sorry to say, but you
well,
get
so many
tired of talking.
boxes one can get, right? I mean, but the boxes are boxes.
So when you're talking to people about, oh, well, hey, we do detailing or we do this or we do that, and you're just like, oh, that's amazing. All right. I don't know exactly maybe where you will fit in the puzzle yet, but I like the concept. I like, what you're doing or whatever the case is, and maybe I'll save your number for later. Maybe down the line, I might have um a referral source where it's like, oh, hey, we offering de car detailing or whatever the case is, or car transport. That's even a better one. And you're like, oh, I know a guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a quote from him. He knows me. He's probably going to low cost it because he knows me. I'm going to upsell it because obviously, I want to make something off for it as well. And you kind of work it that way and you kind of make money and you just never know because you just randomly had this connection and it went wherever it went.
Yeah, man. I'd say for other vendors being at conferences, I know we're there to meet the movers and whatever, but don't sleep on your vendors. Those vendors can turn into incredible partners, which can turn into incredible referral channels. I can't tell you. I know initially when I went to these conferences, 3 years ago, what have you, when I really started diving in, it was, I don't want to say I shied away from the vendors because I'm like, I would go to a box guy. I don't want to go to a oil or gas provider person, or I don't want to go to an ADT person or what have you. I want to spend my time with the movers, and it was a big miss on my part the first couple times, man, because I can tell you how many vendors turned critical partners, which turned into incredible lead funnels. We're some of the best friends today after a short few years. So, leverage the vendors. They're in front of the movers as well. And the deeper you can get, I almost feel like it's like the Trojan horse effect, right? You get into the different vendors, you become partners, and now it's not just me at this particular conference. There's 7 or 8 other vendors that also bring up my name, our organization name, and what we do if it fits right into the conversation, and right back at them, I do the same thing. If I've got somebody that's looking for a box company in the Northeast, I know who I'm throwing out, or at least giving a couple options to, right? And it just becomes part of your normal speak. If someone's looking for, you know, your on-demand team for every move, who do you think I'm throwing out? MF, moving force, baby.
That's right.
You
So,
know, so it's just one of them things that, we all talk to movers every single day. All sorts of conversations come up. So it's really, really cool to be able to say, hey, call my boy Dwight. Oh, yeah, by the way, here's a cell phone. Let me tap it and give it to you. Just like that. It makes that, so much more seamless. And then when they're talking to you, that conversation's a hell of a lot easier because that potential customer is friends with me. You're friends with me, I hope. Still, right?
you know,
Sometimes when I show up on time on Thursdays, uh,
you
don't,
always show up on time. 1 minute early, that's.
hey, you got to be early to be on time, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah. So just like I said, just makes that whole universe so much easier and a lot more fun to throw some
Yeah.
deals around.
Last minute crisis? We've got you covered. When your moving staff is short, Moving Force steps in. Instantly connect with a network of trusted movers ready to handle the job. Fast sign-ups, trusted network, reliable solutions. Don't let last minute issues slow you down. Help is just a tap away. Download the app and sign up for free today.
No, and I still miss those days. Or like, even though like the industry is so big, I felt like these industry events just honed it in. It was like when you first started when you first start your company or moving company and you don't really know anybody in the industry and you join all these Facebook communities and stuff like that, you just see so many people at so many different levels, and you're just like, I just want to fit. I want to be in there. I want to be in the crowd in a sense where I know what's going on, but it's so much information thrown at me from so many different angles. And then you go to these industry events and it really hones it down and you're like, oh, snap. I'm starting to see the same people around the industry. Whereas originally, if you compare it to like New York City, you never see any person more than once unless it's intentional or on purpose. But
Yeah, on your morning,
actually,
the street walk in the morning, you see the same couple folks. But I'd
you
say
know,
the
but
industry does seem big at
mhm.
first, almost overwhelming. When you go to your first conference, you're like, man, look at this guy's doing 300 million, this guy's doing 500. Like the spread of who's there, the conversations is so crazy. But the deeper you get into it, you realize like this actually is a pretty small industry. It's like being in Utica or Elmira. Like every time I go to the grocery store, I'm seeing somebody. Every time I go to a conference, I'm seeing somebody I know. There has yet to have been a conference over the past 2 years where I haven't gone and been like, oh my gosh, bing, 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 bing. Like seeing people all over the place. So at first, for the younger companies that are out there that might get overwhelmed at events, stay true, stick with it because I'll tell you, there's 10, 12 people at every event that I go to. I'd say at a minimum that I see everywhere, which is pretty cool. It's like you almost have your kind of rolling team as you rip across the country. That now a lot of them are vendors, of course, right? But or vendors or partners, but many, many moving companies travel to these events all across the country. You see them all over, whether it's East Coast, Central, or West Coast. They're usually the players and the guys that are doing it right are usually at these events.
Yeah.
Like I take that back. I don't want to say doing it right. It makes it sound like people that don't go to events aren't doing it right. So let me rewind the tape on that so it doesn't
Um,
sound bad. But the ones that are out there doing the deed for the industry are at these events, we'll say.
we're gonna have to have a recorder where you see it go back and then Ryan goes.
We need to have a 7-second delay on this so we can do some editing.
So, but no, it's definitely really good. Especially the ones where it was in what was it? Louis Mazzaro events that took place in Arizona. Because Arizona is really beautiful. It's hot as hell, but it's beautiful as well.
Crazy hot.
But we made some great connections out there with some awesome people. And the after parties is good too. Like, so it seems like, once you go to these events throughout the day, because the events take up all day long. Oh my goodness. It felt like you was back in school or worse, where they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna have this industry event starting at 9 and it's gonna end at 5 and it's gonna be 3 days like this. What the all right.
Yeah, and then that class bell rings at 5 o'clock. Then the real magic happens after the fact, and that's what we all wait for is that school bell to ring so we can get out. But that's where I find, yeah, of course, does magic happen at the event? Does it happen at the booth? Sure. It's gonna happen here and there, but in my opinion, it's all the things that you schedule outside the event. So the private parties, the private dinners, and then just kind of, if it's at a casino, just randomly walking around and find some people and plop down next to a slot machine next to them and throw a 20 in that thing. That's where you have, I feel like you spend all day kind of earning that rapport, that trust, kind of building that relationship. And then at nighttime, like, that's when everybody just kind of lets their wings down and has a good time. So I feel like that's when the true conversations happen at that point.
Yeah, because they ain't
They
really
might.
talking during these events. But for I do have a question for you. So, what is your takeaway from these events at times where, like, obviously 9 to 5 is freaking teaching, it feels like. And obviously it doesn't necessarily apply to you per se. You could, take some of that feedback and incorporate it into the structure of Supermove, but it doesn't really apply to you. So what is your takeaway from this 9 to 5 long day session?
I think, it's I consider myself a student of the game, right? So I'm always trying to learn, right? And just when I think I've learned a particular segment, whether it be valuation or a sales process, there's always somebody that can add additional value to that. Now, it might be a very boring conversation that happens from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., right? But there are some nuggets that do get dropped. And it's just, it's nice to be there, capture those nuggets. But I think the other side too is, you see a lot of vendors at these conferences. It's during that 9 to 5. So outside of booth time, a lot of vendors disappear. I don't know where they go. I don't know if they go to the casino, they go back to the room, they go jump on calls or whatever the case is. But I tend to sit right in the center of all the movers, raise my hand, ask questions, and just kind of listen to hear what the movers are saying. I'm just kind of the fly on the wall, but not on the wall. I usually sit right in the center of the room. So, yeah, there are some times where I'm just like, man, I've been hearing the same conversation for 13 years. Like, why are we still talking about this? No doubt. Those conversations happen quite often. But then there's some times, like Travis Weathers will jump up there and, his past few presentations, like it's been cool to watch his journey from his first presentation to what I just saw him do out at CMSA and the Arizona conference and oh dang, many others. But I always pick up a nugget or two from him because the marketing and SEO side has always been a very weak point for me because we didn't have to do a ton of that for our 120-year-old moving company, right? We dominated the hometown area. Everybody knew who we were. So we weren't spending a ton of marketing dollars, but there's a lot of companies that aren't like what we were. They're new or they're in an area that's highly, highly competitive. So they need to make sure they have that stuff dialed in. But I just think being there, and I think the movers truly respect that too. Movers pay attention. So vendors that if there's any vendors listening, like pay attention to that. Movers are watching you. Movers watch how much you participate, how much you give back to the industry versus just kind of sit there at the booth and wait for magic to show up at your booth. And we all know that doesn't happen. So I don't know if that answered your question. I lost
You
my voice
did, 'cause I'm
halfway
like,
through it.
man, I mean, now I can't sit at my booth. I gotta keep it moving.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, and again, it was tough when I first started hitting the road for.
Hey everybody, my name is Dwyght Mack with Mack's Moving Training. So we're gonna be doing a move and a pack today. But before we go in, there's just 10 basic rules that we just need to know before participating with this service. So number one, understand moving is a very, very stressful thing. The customer, they're uplifting their life from one location to another. They're having to call all these vendors and get all these suppliers in place so that basically they can make that transition. So their stress level is at the highest right now. We need to be a service provider that comes in and basically keep that stress level mitigated or very low. Come in as professionals and do our job the way we know how to do our job so that this customer is less stress during that move process. Number two, be on time. First impression is everything. You guys showing up outside of the window rubs the customer the wrong way. It messes up the rest of the move process. Even if you guys do the best job y'all can do because one thing was off, this customer's mood is just off. Go up and beyond, be there before the time, as long as they're okay with it.
It was just, I was a one-man show, right? Because we weren't sure if, hey, do conferences make a ton of sense? So I was the guy at the booth, the guy at the breakfast table, the guy at the bar at night, the guy at the after hour. Like, it was just too much. You can only you do so much in 24 hours, sort of say. So that's why you see our team has absolutely expanded. So there's always one or two people at the booth. There's always one or two people out and about, um, networking, meeting new people, and it just we bounce off each other well. But again, we have a game plan when we go. We don't just sign up for a conference and say, "Hey, we'll figure it out when we get there." No, we are very dialed in from the moment we walk in those doors to the last basically after party that we attend.
So you find so you get more, you feel like you get more value from the movers than you would get from industry competitor in a sense. Meaning that like even if you was just like in a SaaS community or you were, talking to, these other awesome CRM owners, you'd get more value, I guess, just speaking with the moving business owners.
No, I mean, there's value to be had. Obviously, speaking with other awesome CRMs, as you put it there. But obviously, you're very guarded in what you say too, right?
Of
I mean,
course.
at the end of the day, there's some great people. Like I said, Austin from Smart Moving, great guy. I like him a lot. But there's certain conversations that are had, and there's certain conversations that are not had. Right. So if we're talking family, we're talking industry, I think that's 100% okay. But obviously, I'm not talking with him about, hey, what we're building out, and he's not telling me what they're doing behind the scenes either, right? Like we're friendly, we're very cordial. I think everybody in this space should be that way because at some point our platforms are going to probably need to speak to each other,
Yeah.
right? Because there's going to be people that are going to want to be on their platform, and there's going to be people that are going to want to be on ours, and those moving companies are going to want to work together. So how do we communicate in a a fair and honest way, so that both the moving companies win? Because honestly, if we don't have the moving companies, there's no need for us.
Hmm.
But I do get some value from other competitors. Won't speak on it right now, obviously, but yeah, but no, I think it's kind of it's a healthy blend, but definitely more from the sitting inside listening to the movers talk because now you're hearing their pains, and then we
Yeah.
can find additional ways to solve those pains.
Number three, make sure your team is in uniform, they're groomed, their hygiene is checked, because that's the worst thing you could do, especially going in a house. Customer could smell your guy from a mile away, and now, again, their mood is just thrown off. So make sure that you guys are in uniform, you're tight, you have uniform shirts, that it doesn't look like, you have a laborer that's, hired from off the street. Presentation is everything that goes towards your first impression. Number four, introduce both you and your partner when greeting the customer. Don't just go to the door by yourself, while your driver is unloading the truck and introduce yourself. Actually have both of you there. Introduce yourself first, then introduce your partner second, and then, allow them to welcome you into their home.
Yeah, because I always feel like depending on what you do, so like for me when I went into the training realm and stuff like that, I was like, hey, you know what, let me join these training communities, let me see what other trainers, whether they're in industry specific like this industry or any other industry, let me see like what their ideas of what works for them or whatever the case is. Oh, that group was boring as hell. I don't think I got back. I was like, oh no. Uh, I thought I would like it. I thought, I would network with people, but then it's just like sometimes when people are just in the fields are just so wide and ranged out there and it's just not narrowed down, it's like, what can we really talk about?
Yeah, and the other piece too is within some of these associations, a lot of them have like YP groups, like young professional groups. So it's kind of that younger generation of movers kind of coming up through the ranks, taking over for their fathers or grandfathers, or they just bought a company or just started a company. So if you can join those YP groups, you learn a lot. And quite frankly, they learn a lot too, from those groups because they're kind of new in the game or they're looking to change the way that they do business because, dad did business this way for 25 years or grandpa did business this way for 40 years and it worked. But they all know there's a better way to do things at this point. Leveraging that technology, but honoring the legacy practices of their family or their legacy practices that they've been rocking with. So there's a lot of different one-off groups too. So a lot of things go on at conferences, man. I remember my first first couple, just all these dinners going on and luncheons, everyone's meeting up, and here's Ryan just standing there like, man, I didn't get invited to anything. Like, but it takes time, right? Now it's like, hey, we go to conferences. We're the first to get invited to dinners. We're the first to get the heads up on the after parties. We're being invited to this. We're being invited to speak at this point. But that's, you got to earn it. You got to be there, and you got to pay your dues.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I went to one of Louis Mazzaro conferences, well, one of his last conferences he did. And like people just randomly was coming up to me and was like, "Hey, you're that guy that was in the videos. You're that
Yeah,
guy that was in the videos." I was like, "What?" Like, and it's crazy because a lot of people don't respond to like these YouTube lives and stuff like that. And then next thing you know, they're just like, "Oh, you're that guy." And I'm just like,
I
"Oh,
was. That's kind of that's how you know that the industry is not as big as we all think, right? Like there's eyes on you every Thursday. There's people watching you, or they're watching a day later, a week later. So if they see you out in public, they're like, "Oh man, that's that Dwight Mack." I actually started getting that at the beginning of it first happened last year. I was standing in line at a hotel, getting ready to check in. I had my Suit Move backpack on. I didn't have anything else on. I
oh
didn't think of
snap,
it.
Mr.
And I just heard someone behind me, hey, that's that guy. That's the guy that just did that webinar. And I heard it, but I'm not thinking anything, right? Because I'm like, it's just Ryan with Suit Move. Like I am nobody, right? Like I'm just a guy that loves doing what I do, loves talking industry speak and what have you. And finally, like, hey, I just heard like, hey, Ryan. And I turned around and it was, I'm not gonna say their names, I won't embarrass them, but I had like that first like fan moment. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, and then we start talking, and they're like, man, I thought you were more jacked, and I was like, what does that mean? They're like, oh, we look at you on camera and you seem so jacked, and now we see you in person, and you're like, you're not. It's like, the little things that people pay attention to. I also had a couple weeks ago, someone's like, man, I thought you were really, really short. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm 5'10" and a half. Like, I'm not tall.
Oh, yeah, don't forget the half marker.
Oh, yeah, put the half in there, man. Half inch is a half an inch. I'm hoping to get 5'11" someday.
I
Like,
don't know. I think that, yeah, yeah, optimistic.
I keep stretching.
You know,
But yeah, that's when I knew right there that like people pay attention to the smallest things, whether it be a webinar, a podcast, a round table, or whatever. Like, they're watching. So that was a pretty cool thing.
yeah. So it's definitely an awesome feeling. But while I have your attention, everybody, so don't forget, obviously, you guys, we are in the summer months. Some of these videos that are being uploaded, if you didn't see them live, are delayed, some weeks or whatever the case is. So if you see this episode in sometime June, don't worry about it, it's still dropping value no matter when it comes in. But also, if you guys are short on labor, don't forget Moving Force is your on-demand team whenever you need them, wherever you need them. It's just in the palm of your hands. Download the app. Um, but yes, so right now we are on the East Coast. We are focused on New York and PA and potentially Florida before the end of the summer. So, if you guys definitely need your teams, we are in those areas. So if you guys are doing long distance moves and need some guys at the other end that will show up and that ain't $300, a day type of thing, reach out to us, because I hear these prices are getting a little pricey and people aren't showing up.
$300 for flip-flops and a tank top standard now, isn't it, per day?
I and I still say to today, I never hired those guys, and I see some of them really do a great job. So
No,
I'm
they
not
do.
gonna take anything away from those guys, but the
Just
ones
gotta
that
wear some
don't show.
closed-toe shoes, man. Closed-toe shoes and be in uniform. That's it. Just that extra step.
Uh-huh. So, and we're working on that uniform piece too, because I know that, we've been hearing people, obviously moving companies like their staff in uniform or whatever the case is. So we're twiddling our thumbs on that part of it, on whether we want to go that distance with the uniform concept or whatever the case is. But we also know that that's we know we got to watch overhead, y'all. We got to watch the overhead, and that's for any business. Um, So make sure you guys are vetting your guys. If you are hiring these guys that aren't vetted or background checked or through some sort of training or whatever the case is, or you don't have enough guys moving force. Um, so, but other than that, um, I was thinking today, what could we really be going over that these amazing movers don't know already? And I was going through my five checklist thing where, you talk about operations, sales, HR, compliance, and there was one more thing. And um damn it, can't think of it right now. But nevertheless, you guys already know it all at this point. And if you don't know it all, it's okay. You'll get there, especially if you're a younger company. Um, but just focus on this is the summer. Focus on making this money. Focus on putting some of this money away every week. We know that about my benchmark was about, with everything for payroll was about 45 to 47%. So with that being said, just know that obviously you could put 45% of your payroll and still have 55% left of money from that week. And you can allocate that in the right places so that basically you have money come winter. I was grateful that all my insurance renewals were in the summer months. So I'm like, okay, great. Don't hit me in January or February. They know we ain't got no damn money in that month. Um, but when I first got workers' comp insurance and they weren't working with me where they paid when you paid your workers' comp in your payroll, I was having to pay it monthly. They were because it was through the state, it was like $11,000 for the year. And I was like, God damn, how y'all know I can afford that? And
Y'all take payments?
they was like, oh yeah, you pay us in 10 months and you get 2 months free. I was like, okay, I guess. I can't
Sure.
look at the 2 months free.
Yeah, I just rather spread it out over 12 months now.
And it was like 900 and something dollars in the winter months. And when you're first starting out, 900 in the winter months hurt. But that's when you first start out. After you get going, you're like, okay, 900 isn't too bad when you're having to pay 7,000 for insurance and 10,000 for truck leases. What's 900?
I think something we could touch on at some point is like becoming more efficient. Right? I mean, I'm not saying getting rid of people and all that stuff, but tweaking and always challenging the process. Because oftentimes I feel like, and I know back when I was in the game, I was always looking for ways to save, or always looking for that big dollar amount. Like, hey, where can I save here? Where can I save 5 grand here? And like, oftentimes those big amounts are very hard to capture. They're just not there. But, depending on how you dispatch, there's potential to save 20, 25. Again, depends on the size of the company. So we'll just say, a 6 to 8 trucker company's got a potential of saving 25 to $35,000 a year in payroll based on just how they dispatch. So maybe we can dive into that on a particular episode and just see, hey, like, what are different ways to dispatch to be the most efficient where you don't have guys clocking in, standing around for 15, 20 minutes, a half hour before they hit the trucks, and then they're on the truck for another 10, 15 minutes, and then boom, now they're at the gas station grabbing whoopie pies and chocolate milk and Red Bulls and Monsters, and now they're getting to the jet. Like, there's so many different ways to save because 15, 20 minutes doesn't sound like a lot of time on payroll, but take all of your guys, 15, 20 minutes times 8, 9, 10 guys per day, per week, per month, per quarter, that adds up really, really quickly.
Hmm.
Little things of, lights in the warehouse, so your lights LED. When you walk in, do they automatically pop on? Do you have sensors? And after 10 minutes, do those lights automatically turn off of no movement? I mean, we're not talking massive savings, but you could be talking, our one warehouse bill, I want to say, was like $2,800 a year. Now, I had a massive warehouse, but just or $2,800 a month for the electric and gas aspect. How do we get that down to 1,200 bucks a month? Well, we automatic timers, LED lights,
Mm.
little things like that, like even smaller things like phone plans. Like we had a phone plan, but a lot of times, like the company was paying for my phone. So I was just putting that on the corporate credit card every time I got a phone bill, times how many. And then it's like, man, they got these Verizon deals. I don't say the V word in front of you, Dwight, but I'm sure the AT&T got the same damn deals, right? But hey, if we just combine all of our phone plans here, we're paying $300 a month versus $700 a month. So just little things like that, switching up fuel cards, just finding ways to get a little bit savvy, challenging the process, challenging the vendors, and you can find a lot of money in the rough there.
Yeah.
So that workers' comp, that 11K don't seem that bad when you're saving $25,000 a year on payroll.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, and we could always dive into that right now because we got to lead these people with something. Can't just lead them in the wind. But no, that makes a lot of sense, especially with the payroll side of things. But specifically payroll, I would say that one of the things that worked out for us is that watch how you guys are scheduling your top paying guys. Like when if you're doing your quote and hopefully you every all your hourly rates are strategically planned out prior to saying, hey, we charge 160. Like, how'd you break that 160 down? Did you break it down based on, you know, two guys, what are you paying them per hour? Oh, my bad.
Is that a
Ooh,
sneeze?
huh?
What the hell was that? Was that a sneeze?
I turned off my mic just so y'all didn't hear a sneeze. But
Damn. Well,
but
bless you. You're like,
oh yeah, the whole computer is about to go. But now
you better wipe the screen down now.
so if you guys strategically break down your hourly rate, don't say that, oh, it's $50 per man. Because it's really not $50 per man. Are you really giving that guy a whole $50? Or what in that $50 per man does that look like? And obviously, it can't look like the same thing. It can't look like, oh, my driver who's making $25 an hour and my mover who's making $20 an hour are the same $50 per man per hour. It's not because one of those $50 per hour is leaving you with $30 and one of them is leaving you with $25. So what are you doing with that difference to make up that hourly rate? And that's kind of like, I guess, kind of like where I was going with it, where it's like just make sure that everything's strategic. And then when you schedule your guys, that basically, hey, all right, I'm scheduling this 20, when I charge 160, I'm scheduling this $25 an hour guy as well as this $20 an hour guy. I'm not scheduling two $25 an hour guys for this job because I will be losing money. And I think a lot of people don't think that strategic into it because they're just like, oh, we need to put bodies out there. We need to put bodies out there. But that's going to raise that 45% that we were talking about earlier to 47%, to 48%. Because now you say, oh, we got a six-man job, but I got four $25 an hour guys on this six-man job. When instead you could have did two $25 an hour guys because two trucks and four $20 guys an hour and still been around that $44, $45 profit margin for that six-man job.
I'm
So
with it though. I guess are you saying when you're making your rates, do you base your rates on the cost of your rates, basically being assuming that you've got your $25 an hour guy, or how are you setting your rates up?
so yeah, so the rates are based off of that. The rates are based off of, hey, you got two men, the two men plus their overhead. With the overhead for those two men is considered your workers' comp, your payroll taxes for them, FICA, medical, New York State, whatever, all the taxes that go into having an employee.
Well, yeah, you're $20 a guy, $20 an hour guy that you're paying $20 an hour in New York is like what, 26.40 or something, 26.50 is what you're actually paying for that guy.
Yeah, very close.
Is it
So
like, is it 1.15? And again, depends on your whatever, but if it's 1.15 or 1.2 or whatever, but and again, I'm sure that number has adjusted since I've been out for 3 years now, but it used to be, yeah, you're $20 an hour guy or whatever your guy is. So 20 times, we'll just say 0.15, 20 times 1 point. Yeah, I mean, you're talking $25 an hour is really what your $20 an hour employee is costing you.
yeah. So with that being said, and see, Ryan trying to get me to open these spreadsheets, but see, I be trying not to because
Oh, we're going to break out the spreadsheets now.
but but nevertheless, you want to make sure that that guy that's actually $25 an hour, you know, you understand what you're paying for him. and you're understanding what you're paying for these other guys because ultimately that's going to raise it up. And then, like Ryan mentioned, that 15 minutes of standing around in the warehouse, and then oh snap, they stopped at a gas station and you're paying them for that, and then all this other stuff, and then like because I heard one guy say that, oh yeah, my guys, they punch their card when they get to the shop, and then they punch their card when they leave the shop, and then I forget what deductions he did, but I'm just like, we all know guys don't come straight back to the shop. And then, they hungry after probably after the move, so they might stop to get some food. Or did they drop guys off or along the route? Because, oh, maybe a guy didn't have a car. Yes, that is a thing. So for those that just say, oh no, my guys come back to the warehouse every day, and then everybody leaves from here, I don't know, I might challenge that a little bit because that seems like a perfect world.
Yeah. Now
Were
we had a
the same
mix. We
way?
had the payroll company we use allowed basically guys to, I don't say punch in remotely, we'll say,
Hmm.
but the driver kind of ultimately had that piece. So in the event that, hey, we're driving back from a job, say our guy did not have a vehicle, he didn't drive, whatever the case was, but to drive that guy back 5 miles en route to our warehouse, we would absolutely drop that guy off. But he could punch out right in the truck as soon as we pulled in the driveway. So he didn't have to go back to the warehouse, take 10, 15, 20 minutes before he does punch out, obviously, right? And then punch out. Now he's sitting there waiting for an Uber or a cab or waiting for somebody else to run him back. So we kind of had a little split piece with that. It just kind of really depended on the job, the people, and what have you. But, many, many ways. The dispatching is what was kind of eye-opening for me of how much money was being blown on payroll because of how much downtime there was each morning. When everybody showed up, it was kind of chaotic.
Of course, yeah. And and again, that comes down to are you putting a ratio on how many trucks can one dispatcher dispatch by himself? Or is it like, hey, we got 20 trucks, we got two dispatchers, let's make it happen. Let's get these guys out the door. Are you saving costs in there? Are you being efficient? Are these guys managing every truck throughout the day? Like, because I could see some of these smaller operations that's just huge, just saying, hey, we do it all. I do it all. I can manage the 20 trucks that's going on out there for the day. But how can you efficiently and then have to manage everything in the office? You
Yeah,
know?
it's a big lift. It happens. I know folks that do it, right? I mean, definitely stressful mornings.
So, but yeah, what is your ideas on saving?
So I guess the little thing is I look back at how we used to dispatch, right? Like everybody would come in, I felt like in the morning at 7:15, right? So you got 5, 6 crews, everybody landed in. What's the first thing everybody does, right? Everybody punches in. Then what happens? Some of your laborers are going up to the front office to speak to the office folks. Some are running to the bathroom. Some are going to get coffee. The driver's out there because the driver and his crew punch in about the same damn time. Now the driver's out there firing up the truck, doing the pre-trip, making sure everything's loaded, driving around the corner to pick up the guys. He's waiting there for another 5, 6 minutes because we're waiting for Dwight. Dwight's in the bathroom. Dwight's getting coffee. Where's Ryan? Ryan's chatting with the office staff because Ryan likes to talk. So did a couple time studies on that and then realized, holy cow, 10, 15 minutes a day per guy is costing us X per year. So we started kind of doing it in buckets. Plus, you also have to think, because we have 5, 6 crews in there, what does your operations or dispatch typically do in the morning is kind of review the job a little bit, all right? Tell them what they're getting into. Hand them their paperwork or their tablet or however they operate. So another 5, 6 minutes per job to discuss, we'll say. So we started doing, hey, driver comes in at 7, right? Driver punches in at 7, goes out, gets his truck ready, does the pre-trip, make sure everything's ready to roll. The crew punches in at 7:15. So driver comes in at 7, clocks in, crew comes at 7:15. The reasoning behind that was that gives the driver 15 minutes to basically do his pre-trip, get his truck fired up, get it warm, pull around to the side. So when the guys punch in, they grab their stuff, they get on the truck, they go. The next driver comes in at 7:15, right? He does his pre-trip. His crew comes in at 7:30. So we did it in 15-minute blocks of all of our crews. Boom, 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 boom. So it wasn't like we had everybody come in at once. So that gave our operations dispatch time a little bit of time to breathe, a little bit more time to spend going over the job, but we also didn't have all this downtime of trying to figure out where all our guys are. And I'll tell you, do the math, 15 minutes per guy per day. Now we're just talking about leaving. We're not talking coming back home. When they pull the truck in the yard, typically how much time from the time they get back to the time they punch out and leave? What's that timing look like?
Hmm. Like I
And I'm
said,
not saying kick your guys out, as soon as they get back. I mean, they might clean the truck out, get the truck prepped, ready to go for the next day, things like that. I'm not saying you guys, as soon as they pull in the yard, you kick them out of the truck, make them punch out and go home. If there's things that need to be done, sure. Um, but a lot of savings can be had there.
yeah. Let me
And you're
see.
not impacting the guy's pay. They'll still get paid for their work. And also you're not impacting the customer and that schedule arrival time. You can be a little bit more precise there.
So, I had to share my spreadsheet, Ryan. I was sitting over here
I've
contemplating.
been seeing you as I'm talking, looking on something over there. I don't know what you do, but
Um, so, all right. So yeah, as y'all know, I love and ultimately, you can find this in my leadership program on Max Movement Training website. Um, just reach out to me if you guys definitely want to know more about the numbers. Can you see my screen, right?
yeah, I
All
see you
right.
now.
So let's figure out this hourly rate concept. And I won't make it long drawn out. If you guys want to learn this lesson, definitely reach out to me. But let's just start off with that $25 an hour guy and that 20 an hour mover, because we know rates went up, inflation, all that fun stuff. Um, you're basically looking at for this two-man rate, you're looking at $45 just starting out. So, of course, obviously that's not saying the $50 per man, so you don't have to worry about that just yet. But now we're gonna tie in whatever their FICA, workers' comp, federal, and state unemployment rates are, which is I'm gonna just say 20.8%, which now makes that $45 for that labor, $54. And then we're gonna tie in our overhead stuff, fixed expenses plus admin pay, all of that stuff into your hourly rate, not into your mover's pay, but into your hourly rate. So let's just say that that comes out to about $25 an hour over the course of the year. So again, that rate is even broken down even further. So, and where you can kind of find that information at is if you take your total overhead from your P&L statement and divide it by the total operating hours for the year, you'll find that total overhead dollar amount. So, I actually kind of break it down so that everything seems bite-sized, but you know that you're being profitable, and these are the steps that you want to take in order to make sure that you're charging the right amount of money. So now let's tie that $25 into da 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 da. Did it come over? Let me see. B6 plus C4. Okay. So what I did here was I just added it in or so like that, but it's probably some little error in here. But nevertheless, so then we add also the materials. And then the materials could be stuff like your one-time stuff, like shrink wrap or stuff that is just not replenishable. Like if you have rubber bands and dollies, you probably won't add that necessarily in here. You'll probably add stuff like I said, stuff that's gonna go, your tape, your shrink wrap, stuff like that. So you can add that cost into your hourly rate. And then you're gonna essentially throw in your profit margin. So you could either do we did 30%, but you can do on the low end, maybe 25%. On the high end, you could do 35%. And that's just gonna change the rate essentially on how you essentially move. But I want to actually change this to drive me crazy. Let's see. Uh, so nevertheless, so now let's just say that we got the $99 and we got 107 depending on whatever profit margin we use. So now you know that your hourly rate is either going to be about $100 an hour or it's going to be 107 an hour. And of course, again, you can round it up for weird numbers sake. So you are looking at, in this case, you're looking at $50 per man. And in this case, you're looking at 54, depending on the season type, the seasonality of the business. So now that's just to make sure that you are making a profit. You know that all of this right now is your break-even price. The profit where you're going to expect to come away with something is going to be here because you already factored in your overhead. You already factored in your disposable material and all of your taxes that go into that labor. So everything else after that is essentially profit. Now, from there, you're going to probably look at your truck stuff and you're going to say, well, hey, how you want to do the same concept with your truck? How much is your truck costing you per day? Oh, well, if I get it from U-Haul or I get it from Penske or whatever the case, it's going to cost me this much per day. Okay, well, let's just say it's 110 per day. What is your overhead for your truck? And now it's not the same overhead like, per se. It's more about your overhead is your insurance and your maintenance costs now for having a truck. So that's why it's like $3.52, depending on, again, you're breaking the truck overhead over how many operating hours that truck was in rotation last year or previous year, or how many hours you operated last year in general. So you don't have to even think that minuscule. So now you got 110 plus the $3.52, that's 113. How much do you want to make in profit from having your truck out there? Or you could break even, but who likes that? What's the point of being in business if you're breaking even? So you tie 25% on there. Now you're looking at $151.36. And you're like, oh geez, I can't tack that onto my job. That'll overprice me, you know? But do you have minimum hours? Oh, well, we do have a 3 hour minimum. Well, now that looks like $50.45. So you tack that $50 onto the $100, and now you're looking at 150 an hour. That sounds more reasonable to me.
Two guys in a truck, 150?
There you go. And you make 25% off the truck and you make 30% off of your movers. That's a where are we at? 55% profit margin off that job, essentially, if you put it all together. So yeah, that's kind of like how you can be strategic versus just throwing your hourly rate out there and just hoping that it's making you money. Yeah, I know, Ryan, you got questions because I like to simplify this stuff.
I was just answering a text, to be honest with you. So
Oh, oh,
my phone's been blowing up. I'm like, I gotta see who. It's just boop, 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 boop. My bad.
no, you're good. So,
No, I was following with you up until you just mentioned that. I'm like, oh damn it, you would ask me a question while I'm looking.
ah,
Thought me sleeping over here.
so no, so yeah, that's pretty much how y'all can do it with breaking down your hourly rate, and it goes even cheaper if you wanted to do a 4 hour minimum, $37 and 84 cents. So now that hourly rate becomes cheaper. It's 137.84 because you have a 4 hour minimum. So you're going to make your money regardless, and you're just doing it based off the minimum. So when you were charging 160 because you're like, oh man, we need to make some money, are we gonna price ourselves out, or we're not going to be able to pay our bills to keep the lights on? But if you increase your minimum and essentially lower your hourly, you don't have to price yourself out. And I know people will frown on that. Oh, why would I lower my hourly, increase my minimum? It's kind of the same, but it's kind of like, are do you? It's only a certain point where you can raise your prices before you get resistance from customers. So if you're at that point where you're like, I can't go up to 180, I can't go up to 190 for two men, and the market is calling for this because everything is getting expensive around me, then you have to find another way of doing it. And the other way of doing it is to raise your minimum hourly stand and slightly lower your rate so that basically now you are where you need to be at and you can still be profitable every hour. And I know you got some drawback on that, Ryan. So, you can go ahead.
No, I'm following you. I'm following you. No drawback.
Okay.
Me personally, I'm not lowering rates. Not doing it. No, absolutely not. Lowering the rates. I get the 4 hour minimum. Like we had a 4 hour and a 6 hour minimum. So 4 hour non-peak, 6 hour during peak. But it was very rare that we actually were hitting minimums, but just because of the type of work that we were doing. We weren't picking up a couch and a chair and ripping it across town. So it was very rare that we had the conversation of like, yeah, you want us to move this couch from one apartment to another, but 4 hour minimum, you're looking at $800 for between travel, fuel, this, two guys in a truck. No, no, no. We ain't do that. We weren't getting out of bed for less than $1,200 for a
Hmm.
particular job. But again, super blessed to work for an agency that we weren't dealing with a lot of the piddly stuff, right? We were dealing with a lot of the bigger, more high-end interior design, a lot of commercial, a lot of account business, even on the military side. So a little bit
Yeah.
different for us, but if you're starting out and you're small, and you're looking to kind of get your feet wet and kind of make a name for yourself in your area, I mean, yeah, I'd be focused on those minimums and what makes sense. I still forgot to follow up and see is that 4 hour minimum still in New York? Like if you bring people in, do we still have to
That's
pay
not
4 hours?
long.
Or they change that?
That's not long distance. That's local.
Yeah, no, no, no. I'm with you. Yeah, yeah.
So is that the question, I guess? Or were you?
Yeah, and I forgot to look this up. It's like from 6, 7 episodes ago. I was gonna do a little research, but I thought that if you call in crew, like, so say if I was having a meeting, right? I want to bring my drivers and crews in for a meeting on a slow day, whatever, that we had to pay them a 4 hour minimum. You couldn't just bring them in for an hour and a breakfast and send them back home and pay them for that hour. It had to be 4 hours.
Well, they changed that in New York State because
Okay.
they were going to bundle that in with retail.
Mm, gotcha, gotcha.
And
Okay.
they were saying that, oh, because let's say the Target's out there, hey, you can't work less than 4 hours at Target or whatever the case is. And they were trying to put the transportation industry in the same lump as the retail space. And we're like, no, like our jobs are when the jobs are.
Yeah.
If customers cancel because they need to cancel for whatever reason, you know, supposedly they were saying, well, you would have to give your staff, 24-hour notice. Otherwise, they were entitled to the 4 hour minimum. And it was just like, what? What if our customer don't tell us the last minute? And granted, yes, we can charge a customer a last minute cancellation fee, but it's not going to justify.
No, you get that customer that calls in on a Monday afternoon for a small Tuesday job. Oh, excuse me. You can't even give your people 24-hour notice. You might be able to give them a 12, but 24 ain't happening. But yes, we used to have the 2 hour minimum. And this is when this came up. This is, 10, 12 years ago. We were selling the 2 hour mini jobs and things like that. I remember the one job specifically. And actually, it's what it got us into our one account job. It was a 2 hour minimum plus it was like 45 minutes travel. Like it was, I think the total job was like $410 or something like that. Moving three pieces of furniture around within from one place across the way. But then we realized, like, shoot, we're charging 2 hours, but we're paying our guys four. So we're getting our butts handed to us. So, but again, that sounds like things have changed. I've been gone quite some time, and we're talking, this is like 10, 12 years ago. So,
Yeah, no, so we kept a 3 hour mini because like I said, we wanted to make sure we hit the smaller jobs. Now, ideally, unlike any other state, yeah, New York State is heavily regulated. So as long as you're bringing a truck, you got to charge what you say you're going to charge. So even if they have three pieces and you say, hey, you know what? Three pieces is considered delivery service. We're going to deliver it. If it has to go in your truck, you have to charge a 3 hour mini, which sucks. But, in the off chance, we would charge like for like a delivery, we would charge like something around like 390 or whatever the case is for the three pieces at the time. And even then, sometimes you might have got a little kickback, but if you could imagine if you had to charge them like a full 3 hour mini, whatever the case is, you're like, oh, well, hey, pay us 600, $700 just to drag three pieces across town. So in that case, that's where you have to get, finesse it a little bit, get cargo vans, because then obviously cargo vans aren't considered full service. But you got to do what you got to do to stay in compliance. So this is what this episode is about: staying in compliance. Don't do the wrong stuff. But yeah, so we are at the top of the hour, y'all. I hope y'all got some insights out. As Ryan knows, I love my spreadsheets, And I
That's the
just want to make
spreadsheet king, baby.
and I just want to make sure y'all guys are dialed in with how you calculate your hourly rate. So, if you need to pause the video on that screen or whatever the case is, and do what you got to do to figure it out to make sure you guys are profitable this summer. It's never too late, especially if you're not in a state that's regulated, like New York. Uh,
Oh, if you're in Florida, Arizona, like you can have it's Wild Wild West out there or Wild Wild South.
but I also know that because Florida, states like Florida aren't regulated, the rates are the wild wild south where you might be competing with, and you don't even want to consider them competition, but you might be competing with $105 an hour guys, and you're just like, oh, they're not even in my bracket. I charge 140, 150, and then you realize that those customers are saying no to you because it's like, oh, you're too expensive. And you're like, I got insurance.
That's where education awareness, man. Every moving company should be pumping something about that because unfortunately the rogue movers aren't going away. I know they're doing a great job with the crackdown, different task force and everything, but you're not going to be able to capture all of them because as soon as they pop up, as soon as they get caught, they're showing up the next day on a whole nother piece, whole nother website, a whole nother this, and they're back out on the streets. But my whole thing is you got people that are taking those type jobs, let them fill up their schedules. Our competitor was a lot less rate wise than us. So when I initially got into sales, like nobody wants to lose jobs, right? So I was getting very frustrated when the company across the street from us was scooping moves at $120 an hour for two guys in a truck and we were a buck 60. But then come to find out, yeah, I might have took it off the chin for a couple weeks. But then guess what? That moving company filled their schedule with probably not the most profitable work, super low rates. And then what happens? All the good size moves come in. All the really good revenue jobs, the ones that you want as a moving company are there. We had the open schedule. We could take it. Unfortunately, the other company was like, they were booked. And then what would happen? That other company that filled their schedule with 125 bucks or even 165 for three guys in the truck, they would actually go back and call when they got a big job come in. They call those customers for 125 bucks an hour and cancel last minute to take the bigger job because it was more profitable, more money.
Mhm.
Not a good look.
That makes
We came
sense.
across that all the time.
And it makes very much sense. So I hear all the time that guys are like, oh yeah, we had 100 jobs this past month. Amazing. Because I can't say that we've maybe in the summer month, 1 or 2 months, we've got up to maybe like 90 jobs or something like that. But that's even absurd, because it's like, hey, if you're getting that many jobs to a point, maybe your hourly rate is a little low, you know, and now you're burning out your guys because you're either forced to hire more guys to handle that workload, or you increase your hourly rate to the point where instead of taking 90 jobs, you take 45 jobs. And you make sure that these guys get paid respectfully, and you make the same profit that you would have made if you took 90.
Doing more with less, you know.
So Ryan will tell you best because Ryan talks about that a lot.
I'm a huge fan of that. I mean, I remember, having, 10, 12 trucks, doing the same revenue as six trucks. But the difference was those six trucks were running all day when the 12 trucks were only for only 120 days. So we did more with less headaches, less fires, less everything. But, you know, it's always interesting when I speak with someone and I'm like, hey, where are you closing at? And they're like 90%. And I'm like, you're closing 90% of your leads? Probably your price is a little bit low. And they're like, no, my price ain't low. I'm like, three guys in a truck, 145 bucks an hour? Everybody else in your area is 190 to 215. I hope you're closing 90% of those deals, but you can raise your prices by 20, 25 bucks an hour and still probably close 90%. Or raise them 30 bucks an hour and you're closing at 70%.
I
You're
can't
still
believe
capturing more.
I can't believe people if you have in this day and age, if you're a three man in one truck and you're still underneath $200, I don't know what the heck is going on.
There's a lot. There's a lot that are, you know. I'm the last rate when I let like our median rate for three guys in a truck in 2022 was 187.50. That was kind of like, so we had the green, yellow, red rates, right? We were capacity based in New York before they kind of goofed all that up and kind of told us we couldn't do that anymore. But, we're anywhere from 165 bucks an hour for three guys in a truck up into, I think it was like 245 or 250. There's a sliding scale based on our capacity.
Hmm. Well,
I think New York put the kibosh on that, but
oh yeah, they always, but it's good. At the end of the day, is
they let
everybody.
hotels do it. Why can't they let moving companies do it?
because it's too new, maybe. And
It
maybe
ain't new. Capacity-based pricing, or that ain't new. I mean, hotels been doing it for a long time. Look at airlines.
maybe everybody don't know about it yet. So how you put it in your tariff seems weird for them.
I mean, you got a low and a max, a min and a max rate. You can't go lower, you can't go higher, but you should be able to slide within those
You
scales.
trying to be like those other states, like Atlanta and South Carolina states, where they
It's
have
good.
a great
To me,
tariff.
it makes sense. Like, I see a lot of companies that have the peak and non-peak season rates, but oftentimes, like at least for our company, we were just as busy in non-peak a lot of the times. But we're charging $30 less an hour. That's not fair. But y'all
So
don't want to have your peak season rates all year round either. So for us, it was ability to, smart book, we'll
yeah.
say.
So the one thing they did have where if it's before hours and after hours, meaning hey, if it's before 9 o'clock on your opening hours, you could charge
Yeah.
double time or whatever you want to charge around that time. And same thing for after 5. But I never went with that because I felt like, is it our, is it the customer's fault or is it our fault based on the way to how long the job is going? You know, like if we started a job at 1 o'clock in the afternoon because we had a double that day, and then oh snap, 5 o'clock comes, we got to charge double the price because it's five
Give it to
o'clock.
me. Can't do that. Yeah, I never felt right about that.
So,
Ever.
so I was like, you know what? The price is going to stay the same unless the customers exclusively say, "Hey, we want you to start at 5 p.m." And even then, why you got to start so late? We tired. But all right, y'all. So we are at the top of the hour. Definitely tune in next week. Ryan be dropping some more gems about his travel trip, and all the fun he's going to be having because moving force and join forces yet, but we will. And
You'll be out there. You'll be out there very soon, man.
yeah. So we will see you next week. Keep grinding out there and making sure that you maximize the rest of this month. Make sure you are dialed in.
May is almost over.
Yes, sadly. But all
Crazy.
right, y'all. You got something, Ryan, before we head out?
No, man. I mean, shoot, May's almost over. Time to get after it. Summer's here. Peak is in full swing, and let's get after it. Capture that business. Make that hay, baby.
All right, y'all. Y'all take care. Later. Like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget.